Welcome to At Home with Gizzelle. I'm Gizzelle. A fun fact about me is that I have 40 nieces and nephews. Yes, 40. Don't ask me to name them all, but many of them are big Fortnite fans. Epic, the maker of Fortnite, has sued both Apple and Google after the tech giants pulled the app from their digital marketplaces. The dispute comes after Epic created a method for users to directly pay from the app, bypassing the Apple and Google payment system, and the markup each organization puts on the transaction. Keep your eyes on this one because the ruling could have a significant impact. Russell Kirsch, one of the scientists who built the first computer for the US government and the inventor of the pixel for digital imagery, died this week at 91 years old. He was curious to see if a computer could learn to see images, so created the first digital picture in 1957 of his son who was born that year. In order to store the image digitally, he created the concept of pixels or blocks to contain the necessary data. There are a few companies really outpacing the rest of the industry in the cloud world. Iland is one of them with their disaster recovery, backup, and infrastructure as a service offering. I'm excited to be joined today by the person that first introduced me to Iland, Colin Jones. Colin, thank you so much for being here.
This is great. Glad to be here.
A fun story. Very early on in our friendship, Colin and I happened to be at the same Star Wars movie premiere event prior to you working at Iland, and you ignored me. So
I am not the most observant person. I will be honest. And yeah, no, you still never let me live that down, right? And now we're good enough friends where I send a video to your daughter for her birthday, right? So we can overcome those things.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it makes me realize that, like, as having you as a vendor, that occasionally there'll be missteps, but you'll make it right when it really matters.
Thanks, and that's why you, as a partner leader and as somebody I've always looked to for guidance in even the channel community, you've done a really great job of guiding me through that too. So you help open my eyes when I'm not paying attention. So thank you on that side.
I remember the day you first told me about iland, and it completely sparked my interest since it made cloud so simple for organizations. Give the people watching us today a quick overview on what it is Iland does.
If you've never heard Iland before, probably the first thing you would see if you were to Google us is we're the Gartner leaders in disaster recovery as a service. Probably what we're most known for is that side of things, but we are a global VMware cloud service provider. So producing both disaster recovery, backup as a service, and production cloud for customers.
I know that you have really taken off during the pandemic as the need for distributed architecture grows, but what trends are you seeing because of all of this?
Two of the big ones we're starting to see a lot more right now are obviously our disaster recovery as a service, because people are finally actually looking at what their disaster recovery looks like, right? Maybe they've had to run their test, or they finally had the VPs actually worrying about it. So I'd say that conversation is happening a lot more. And then even more so now is that production cloud, that actual infrastructure as a service for those customers where maybe they're planning on buying a bunch of hardware this year and they're looking at a refresh, and now their CFO team's looking at their finance team's looking at the budget, and they're looking for a way to OpEx all of this, but they're not ready to make that move to maybe a public cloud. Their applications aren't built for that. They need 100% uptime. Like, that's really where we come in.
One thing we've chatted about in the past is that a lot of people assume Office 365 is natively backed up, but it isn't, and Microsoft actually recommends using a third-party backup service like Iland. Are you seeing a lot of interest in that product?
Very, very much so. It's funny, you think about O365 backup, it's not exactly the sexiest thing to talk about, I'll be honest, but it's very much a necessity. And now we're seeing so many people moving to those platforms, using things like OneDrive and SharePoint a lot more, things like Teams. We don't have a really simple solution that integrates straight into their O365 environment, goes cloud to cloud, and it's unlimited storage, right? So you don't have to think about all that complexity with it as well. That we try to make it really click button, easy searchable for them.
Earlier in our discussion, we mentioned my daughter. So on that topic, I know that your family is expecting a daughter of your very own in a few months. What has it been like during a pandemic, and are you super excited?
Man, we could talk about technology all day, but I could probably talk about my new daughter even more now. I mean, it's very weird. I will say, like, this is probably the best time to be pregnant for my wife, because the first 3 months were not great for her by any means. And I think since we couldn't go anywhere, she didn't have any sort of FOMO or feeling like she was missing out on anything. So that's positive. It allowed us to hide it a bit more for the first couple months. But now it's, we're looking towards December and fingers crossed that things get better. It's a little scary, but at the same time, it's never know what things are going to be like until it happens. We're more excited about having a kid than anything else.
Back to technology. As you are out there talking to organizations about their challenges, what is one thing that you wish CIOs knew? One takeaway that you'd leave them with?
There's not like one specific solution I think they need to implement. I think one of the most important things they can do is find people they can trust. They can actually help them guide through the marketing.
That was a very altruistic answer. I know a lot of people would have taken a more selfish approach.
If I could tell any CIO, just DR, IaaS from iland, don't care about anything else.
You need to find a way to weave Equinix into that statement and you could be onto something. Any parting words for our viewers?
I live in Portland, Oregon. Feel free to reach out to me anytime. I am looking for a reason to have face-to-face conversations via Zoom or WebEx or Google Hangouts or whatever chat functionality you need. So don't hesitate to reach out.
That's it for today's At Home with Gizzelle. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you next time.